Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has released its condensed financial statements for the year 2015 through to 2022. For the first time in 7 years, the Apex Bank has made its audited financial documents available to the public. The CBN declared net interest income of 1.8 trillion naira and a profit of 65.6 billion naira as a bank. Our Rise business analyst Chika Mbonu joins me now for more on this. Good morning. Good morning. It's good to see you. Thank God it's Friday, and thank God you've got 7 years of financial statements from the Central Bank. Is this part of the cleansing that the Mr. President talked about? President Tinubu, by the way.
Well, I mean, the way I'm going to look at it is this: that the law says that Central Bank of Nigeria, 2 months after every financial year, must lay its audited accounts before the National Assembly. And he hasn't done this for 2016 to 2022, I think seven accounting years.
Yes.
Which broke the law, unacceptable. Now,
but I'm not sure the National Assembly ever asked.
They never asked.
Well, we never heard that.
The president of the Senate is busy sending prayers, so they may not remember things.
Yes,
they may not remember
for
things.
Public interest, such as this.
They may not remember
the Central Bank.
Yeah.
Financials is a public statement.
2
weeks ago, may I respectively cut you?
Yes.
The Central Bank of South Africa held a public shareholders meeting. It's online, in which the Central Bank governor read publicly the financial statements to the shareholders of South Africa's Central Bank. You would like to see that moving forward.
Exactly. So, because, you see, when we see things like this, it puts to more shame the despicable charade we'll see from the events of last week or a few days ago from the Senate and so on. They leave the real things and then focus on the inconsequentials. And so, but one thing I want to put out there is that I looked at the signature at the sign date. The auditor signed off in May 2022. And signed by the governor in suspension.
Yes.
So you could see that. Yeah, so you could see it's there.
So technically, the financial statements are prepared as required, but never made publicly or sent to the National Assembly.
That's basically
and that's a very serious downside to the oversight.
I think accountability has to move into more transparency. Things like this should happen. I don't know. I can't correct them, but I'm told also that AMCON is in the same kind of situation. That hasn't published its account.
It's for years as well.
Years as well.
Which is the asset management
asset management company of Nigeria. These are people holding public trust and managing public funds. And
again, because there are deductions here and there, AMCON levy on banks and all of that.
People ask me,
banks disclose, but AMCON does not disclose.
They forget that Central Bank is a bank. A bank.
It's an organization.
A bank to the federal government of Nigeria. A bank to banks in Nigeria too, so they make money just like every other bank makes money. And, how do banks make money? By lending money out and then by charging fees and commissions. So for Central Bank of Nigeria, it lends to, the federal government of Nigeria.
And you are your best element. As a former banker yourself. We got you this Friday.
At the balance sheet date, it showed the total loan of about 31 trillion. Out of that, interestingly, I'm going somewhere. 23 trillion of it is balance
sheet position.
Balance sheet position. That is the ways and means that we don't want to hear about, which, by the way, has been sorted out because of the position what the National Assembly did. And they made a whopping 1.9 trillion in income from that. Remember that part of the reason why the federal government of Nigeria was running towards, changing, the ways and means was because of the high interest rate. It's charged at MPR, monetary policy rate, plus 3%. So you can imagine that, so now you're having 21.75% or thereabout, so at that high rate. So they're making money from that. Remember the standing deposit lending facility of banks also. They lend to that. Remember all the intervention of Central Bank of Nigeria? That's that. So the interest income comes from that. Remember there are the people who manage foreign exchange in Nigeria. So they make income from that also. And remember the licenses they they issue out also.
And all
BDC,
of that,
they make income from that.
These are all sources of income.
Income for them. The treasury bills make income from that. They hold assets also, which they mark to market. They make a lot of money from that. So you find like a typical bank, they're making money from a lot of all these sources. And so if you look at the expense side also, so they, of course, they lost money from exchange rates devaluation, just like a lot of banks in Nigeria did also. And there's one expense there they call federal government expenses. Very interesting. When I saw the narration, it says they give money, loans to federal government of Nigeria. There's always a miss now, but itemized along security for security challenge, issues.
Yes.
Okay, and when it's done and it's not paid back within 12 months, it's expensed automatically.
It's written off.
It's impaired. So the other thing that is interesting here in the financials is about 900 billion on bad loans. Now, they didn't give us the nature of those bad loans and who the obligors are.
Well, we can smell around, and sniff around where those bad loans will come from.
But we believe that as the days come, we will have more interesting things about that. Yes. One of that expense here that has been taken away by the new policy of Central Bank of Nigeria is the RT200.
Yes,
and
for
yes, and the Naira for Dollar scheme.
Yes,
they spent about a total of 150 billion or thereabout on both things.
Well, Central Bank print the money so they can afford to give it out because just paper and ink and just give it out. But again, there's a cost to it because I saw currency.
Currency management came about 25 billion.
Yes,
cost
for last year.
For last year. So. Credit loss I thought about already. Federal government expenses I thought about already.
But there's a profit side. Just look at the last line. I'm sure you're looking at it.
103 billion
for the group.
Compared to 75 billion the previous year. So it made decent money.
It was a good year last year.
And the law says you reserve 20% of that, and the other balance you pass to federal government in Nigeria's profit.
Maybe when we see 2023 numbers, we'll be to see what the cost of the printing of the new notes will look like. Where we start begin to compare, because I'm sure there's some costs involved.
But the other interesting thing is that, interestingly, for the past 8 years, they've always made profits. Despite the devaluations, the central bank has made profits. All the accounts published showed profit for the last 8 years.
But interesting thing was that all these financials were prepared before the exit.
Before the exit.
I saw a signature on all of them. But again, it also shows that at least the numbers had been produced, but just kept in the drawer.
So moving forward, now let's just push it out.
Yes. That's a good bit. So what?
MTN.
Yes, let's talk about MTN. Okay, just a scrip dividend. Is your name among the? Are you among the 5,192? Don't disclose. Let me just as usual as we do to our viewers. Now, at the end of every accounting year, every company audits its account and then declares its profit. After it declares profit, it makes a decision on how much dividend needs to be paid out to shareholders, and then how much will be reserved. But you see, sometimes the companies decide that we want to keep all the money because we need to do expansion. Let's not pay out all to the shareholders. Usually, sometimes it's generic. They just go to AGM, get that approval, and they don't pay at all. But what NTN did was they made it discretionary. And so and gave out the notice that if you're a shareholder who we're supposed to pay you dividend, but you don't want a dividend in cash, want to convert it to shares, indicate so. Yes.
And so that was discretionary. And that's a lot of people indicated. But they made it interesting because the conversion rate was lower. And so, they got approval of SEC to do that. And they got an approval. So those shares now allocated to them is not being registered. This is what they're just saying.
Nice.
So for the individuals, they get additional shares, and then lower than the market. For the company, it saves them cash.
Retain cash.
It says them retain cash that ordinarily would have paid out, which they would have gone to borrow from banks for the expansion.
At certain rates.
At certain rates. So cost of capital is lower in this case for them. So the bank, the individuals gain, the shareholders gain, and the company gains.
Because again, you've seen the steady upside in MTN share price almost on a daily basis. In fact, since June, it's made very rapid advancement.
Even though half year was the bond, they were pumped.
Yeah, the first 6 months of this year.
Yeah, they were pumped.
No, all bonds. First half of this year.
By the devaluation.
All the way,
about
all the way to the top.
260 billion last year compared to 200 billion this year.
It's going to be interesting to see central bank's financials for full year 2023. Let's see whether the central bank will get bond itself. For all that we saw. But it's interesting. Thank you so much, Chika. It's good to have you on this note. Very interesting
Always.
time
Thank you.
this morning. Thank you. Have a great weekend and see you next week.
Thank you.
And this is your Global Business Report here on Arise News.